Hey everybody, how's it going? Tonight we are going to be making my favorite, some chicken lo mein. Now the reason I picked lo mein is because it is very customizable. So anything that you see me use today in this video, you can substitute in and out. You can use the vegetables you do want. You can exclude the vegetables you don't want. So that's the reason lo mein has become one of my favorites. It's very customizable. You can make it 4 or 5 straight days. Never have the same lo mein twice. So let me show you right now what I'm working with. So as you can see, we have all of our veggies here. Starting with the carrots, we got some bok choy, we got some zucchini mushrooms, some shallots, green onion, little bit of garlic, some red pepper. We got a little broccoli right here. Then obviously our protein is going to be the chicken. Our spices, we're going to be using some black pepper, some salt, sesame seeds if you want them. That's more just for the aesthetics of the dish. We got some sesame oil, a little bit of oyster sauce and soy sauce, and a little bit of brown sugar. Now that's going to kind of make up what your sauce is, what you're going to toss your stir fry in. Now the noodles that we are going to be using, we're going to be using some thin spaghetti noodles. You can also find at Kroger, they have some organic Chinese lo mein noodles. They're a little bit more expensive, about $2.60 for a pack of these. You get about 5 sleeves, where the thin spaghetti is $1. So the difference in taste, I haven't really noticed a huge difference. So you may. But as far as I'm concerned, when I make lo mein, the thin spaghetti noodles do exactly what I want them to do. So that's why I use those. Now, to get started, we're gonna go through and do all of our prep work. So we're gonna cut our chicken, we're gonna cut all of our vegetables. Now I do recommend, if you are going to do the prep work, get a couple dishes. I like to get one dish that's gonna have the veggies that take a little longer to cook, and then I'm gonna have a dish for the veggies that are gonna cook very quickly. Basically, as you time these out, you're gonna put your veggies in the order that you need them done. So like the broccoli, the pepper, the mushrooms, the shallots, those are gonna be the first ones that go in. The second ones are gonna be your zucchini, your bok choy, and your Thai chili pepper. So those are gonna cook a little bit quicker. So I try and split them out, but I'll show you as we go along kind of how I kind of split them out when I put them in. That way you can follow along and make the same lo mein I'm making tonight. So another great thing about the lo mein is it's very cost efficient. So to go through all of the stuff that we got today, all the vegetables and everything, ended up at Kroger costing us about $6.71. Now, as far as the chicken goes, I know protein's usually going to be your most pricey item. The chicken that I'm using today, also Kroger chicken, got it for $6 and some change for about 6 chicken breasts. We're using 1 today, so add $1 to that, you're at $7.71. So looking at the sauces that we have today, the soy sauce is going to cost you about $1 at Kroger. Your oyster sauce, your sesame oil, that's going to be about $3 each. So let's add another $6, $7 to our $7.71, and we're looking at a little under 15 bucks for this whole meal. So with everything here, we're looking at just under $15. This is going to make about 5 servings, so you're looking about $3 a serving. Very cost efficient, very filling, and albeit tasty. So let's get started doing some prep work. So when I cut the chicken, I try and cut it into thirds. So looking here, you're looking a little over ½ inch thick. Helps it cook more even, helps it to retain its tenderness, some juiciness, and overall just helps it to slice up. So it's a little bit thinner. I like the chicken a little bit thinner just because when you're putting it in with some noodles, if you get big chunks of chicken in there, kind of hard to eat with the rest. So everything that we're going to do today, as you're going to see, everything's going to be very finely sliced, finely chopped, just because we want to be able to get a lot of these vegetables all in one bite and a lot of the protein as well. So I like to cut mine into thirds, and then we're going to take our oil here, we're going to oil up our pan, and then we're going to get it nice and hot. Now, while we're getting the chicken ready, pan's heating up, we're also gonna get the water on because we wanna get the noodles in, we wanna get those softened up. The noodles should be done before all the vegetables and everything come together. So we're gonna turn on our water, get that heating up to a boil, making sure it's ready to go. We'll put our noodles in. While we're doing that, we're gonna finish up all of the other prep work with the veggies so that we can put those in. Noodles should get done about the time that everything is going in with the veggies, and then we can throw it all together, have a beautiful pot of lo mein. All right, we got our pan nice and hot. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna lay down our chicken, putting it into the hot pan, and then we're gonna cook it about 2 to 3 minutes each side. That's just gonna help cook all the way through. Make sure that you get your chicken to at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle. Now, if you cut it into thirds and you cut it a little thinner like I do, you're gonna be able to hit that pretty quickly. That's why it's only a couple minutes, 2 to 3. Then we'll have chicken to temperature. We'll be able to dice it up and get it ready to go back into the lo mein once all of our veggies are done cooking. And now, while those are cooking, we're gonna get started on our veggies. So for this, I'm gonna use about half of a red pepper. And like I said, because I do like in my lo mein very thin sliced veggies, that's how we're gonna do them, very thin, so that as they cook and get added into the noodles, they will kind of respond as the way noodles do. They will be able to be twirled up in your fork, and then you can get all those great flavors in each bite. So what I mean by thin, we're not going super thin. It's not going to be paper thin, but we're going probably about a 1/4 inch. 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch wide. That way as they cook and kind of wilt down, you're going to get very nice, flavorful. You can still keep them crispy while still give them that pliability so that they can kind of twirl up with the noodles. So now we're also going to look at our plates. So the veggies that are going to take a little longer to cook, I start in one, and I'll always start with the one that's gonna take the least amount of all the longer cooking veggies. So I'll always start with my peppers here, and then we'll add our mushrooms, then we'll add our broccoli, because those are gonna be the ones that take the longest. And the shallots and the garlic, those are gonna go in right away, just so that we can get some flavor in the pan and really start to mesh all those flavors together. So first part of the prep work, we're going to take all the stems off our mushrooms. Just very fibrous, not something that I like to have in there. Some people will leave a little stem on, but I try and get about as much of the stem off as I can. Now these mushrooms are shiitake mushrooms. Now you can use cremini or any plain white mushroom. All of those are going to be fine. I just enjoy the size and the flavor of the shiitake mushrooms, so that's the ones that I choose. But the mushroom, really, whichever one you choose to use, is just really going to absorb a lot of those flavors that you're putting into your pan. And then with the veggies, same consistency, trying to get about 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick on our mushrooms. You can leave them a little thicker just because mushrooms will kind of shrivel down as you cook them. So you can keep them a little bit thicker than you would your other veggies, and then they will probably shrink down to about the size that you've been cutting for everything else. All right, now our chicken has been on for about 3 minutes. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna flip it over, brown the other side. And as you can hear that in the background, everything is cooking at a very nice hot temperature. So we're gonna seal in a lot of that moisture, keep our chicken nice and juicy. Nobody likes dry chicken. Now broccoli is another thing. As you can see, we get some pretty big chunks of broccoli. What I like to do is either have them, or if they're an even bigger piece, I'll cut them into quarters. So half that way, half down the center, and get them into a little bit more manageable pieces. Number one, they'll cook a little better, and number two, it's just a little easier to eat as you're eating your lo mein. And then 2 or 3 minutes on the other side, flip them back over. And now we're gonna take the chicken off. So the chicken, once you have it cooked about 2 or 3 minutes on each side, you can take it off, put it back onto clean cutting board. And we're just gonna let that rest. So, because the chicken's nice and hot, we have a really hot pan. The chicken's gonna continue to cook for a little bit. And at this time, you can take your pan off the stove. I like to take mine off because I don't want to burn all the juices and the oils that we use to cook the chicken, because I want to use those for some of the veggies as well, so that we get that good flavor all the way through our meal. So I like to take it off, sit it off to the side, turn your burner off for a second, and continue getting your veggies cut. Alright, so I got all my broccoli cut. Just for a frame of reference, this is about the size of broccoli that I like to cut it down to. It fits about in the center of the palm of your hand, a little less than a golf ball size. So it will cook down a little bit as we go along, but what we really want to do is make sure that when we put it all together that we don't have huge chunks that are kind of hard to eat and work around. But now we do have our water boiling, so it's time to put our pasta in. Get that cooking so that it has some time to rest before we throw it in with our veggies. And I'm using a whole pound of pasta. This whole meal will make about 5 servings, like I said earlier. So everything that I have here is kind of predicated on the fact that we're using a whole pound. Obviously, the less pasta you use if you're cooking for one or you don't want leftovers, cooking for only a couple people in your family and you're taking the pasta down a little bit, you're also gonna have to cut back on the veggies some. So we're just gonna give that a quick stir so none of our noodles are sticking together. Now with zucchini, this is more of a personal preference. Again, to follow along with all the other vegetables, do try and keep them pretty thin. Some people like to do chunks or cubes and do little smaller pieces. I like to keep more of the zucchini, just little thinner strips. So almost look like little zucchini French fries. Now, one thing I don't think I mentioned earlier is ginger. So ginger is very good with the garlic. It really helps bring out a little bit of that Asian flavor. When you are using ginger, make sure you go through. I like to take a peeler, get the skin off, And then I will cut off a little chunk, and then I will dice it up with my knife, mince it up about the same size that you're gonna mince up your garlic. And then the ginger, garlic, and your shallots are gonna be what you're gonna put in the pan first, so that it helps to kind of flavor the oil that you're gonna be cooking everything in, so that those flavors permeate throughout the entire dish. If you put it on last, it doesn't have enough time to really cook down and soak into everything you're cooking, so then you're just gonna get little pockets of it. So I try and put that in first, that way everything that I put in on top of it is gonna absorb that flavor, and then you're gonna taste that throughout the entire dish. For our garlic, I'm going to use 2 cloves. Since these are a little bit bigger cloves, I may only use 1.5. I'm just going to kind of see what it looks like in comparison to the ginger, see how much we have from the first clove of garlic, and if we need to add a little bit more, we will. But I'm going to guess that probably one of these large cloves will be just plenty for what we are cooking. Now, if you want a nice, easy way to mince your garlic with a knife, what you're going to do is sit it on its side, in between 2 fingers. You're gonna cut little strips, making sure you don't cut all the way through. Then you're gonna flip it on its top. Do the same thing that way. Again, making sure we're not cutting all the way through, because we want to keep it all intact with the root end. And then you're gonna cut all the way down. And all you're gonna leave is just that little end piece. And looking at it right now, that one large piece of garlic is gonna be plenty for the meal that we're making. So we're good to go there. Next, we're gonna get our shallots, and then we're gonna get everything put into the pan and get that starting to all work together and marinate together. Now again, with the shallots, if you don't like shallots, or maybe you've never tried shallots and are a little bit afraid to, very, very similar to regular white onion, but you can also substitute that out for white onion. So if you still want to get some of that onion flavor in, you can still use that and avoid the shallots. Just get a nice white onion, and then we're just going thin strips of it, because again, we're just going to cook that down. We're just really trying to infuse the flavor into the dish. All right, now as you can see, we got our pan. We're gonna add just a little bit more oil, just to make sure nothing's sticking and we got nice, good cooking surface. Gonna stir our noodles again, make sure those aren't overcooking either. And the noodles are feeling just about done, so let's give them a taste, see where they're at, and see how much longer we need to keep those on. All right, so our noodles are done. What we're gonna do, we're gonna strain those out, put them back in the pan, and then we're gonna add a little bit of sesame oil just so nothing's sticking together. And then the sesame oil will also go in to the wok a little bit towards the end. Just another great flavor that mixes well with the garlic and the ginger. But a word of warning, do not put a lot of sesame oil in. Sesame oil goes a long way. It has a very strong scent and a very strong taste. All right, so now we're gonna heat back up our pan, get that skillet nice and hot. Once it gets up to temperature, we're gonna throw all of our shallots, our ginger, our garlic in there. We're gonna start getting all the veggies put together. Oh, and just to show you my bowls. So in this, right now, I have the zucchini, because the zucchini doesn't take a whole lot of time to cook down and get real soft. And then in here, here's the longer vegetables, your broccoli, mushrooms, pepper. To the zucchini, I'm also going to be adding the bok choy once I get that cut up, and our nice little Thai chili as well. So let's take all of our flavors and we're gonna throw them on in that pan and let them start to cook. Let them start to get along with one another. Start to marinate and build flavors that we're gonna put all of our veggies into. Now basically what we're going to do is we're going to let these cook for a little while. Don't want them to burn, so make sure you're paying close attention because we do have it on pretty high heat and they are very small pieces, and they do have a tendency to burn if you let them cook too long just in the oil. So we'll let them cook together for about a minute to 2 minutes. Once you see them start to brown up a little bit, then you can take your veggies, the ones that are going to take the longest to cook, and we're just going to toss those in there and get everything working together. All right, now that we have those starting to work together, I'm going to put about a tablespoon, just a little splash of the sesame oil, just to coat all the veggies that we have in there now. And then as they kind of sweat and cook down, it'll create enough juice that when we put in our next veggies, it'll help coat those as well. But at this point, we are just building flavors. Now with the bok choy, obviously, you do have a very leafy part of the bok choy. This needs to be the last thing that goes in. But as you work your way down, you're gonna get more of the stem to the leaf. Those I will try and put in about now because they are a little bit more fibrous. They're gonna take a little bit longer to cook. So I will throw those in. But like I said, the leafy part of the bok choy will absolutely be the last thing you throw in there. One thing I did forget to mention that we did get some shredded carrots. Now you can buy regular carrots. You're going to save about 30 cents and cut them yourselves. But with all the work that goes into cutting a carrot, I find it just a little bit easier to take the pre-shredded ones and sprinkle in some of those, just to save myself a little time and effort. Alright, now we got that cooking down. So we have pretty much all of our veggies, all diced, everything's ready to go. So what we're going to do next, we're going to start to build our sauce. So with the sauce, we're going to do about 4 tablespoons of your soy sauce to 1 tablespoon of your oyster sauce. So, again, if you're using a little bit less or making a little bit less, you're doing 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, you're gonna do half a tablespoon of oyster sauce. Doing 1 1/4. So basically that 4-to-1 ratio, however you wanna look at it. And then we are also gonna be adding 1 tablespoon of packed brown sugar. So just to give it a little sweetness, you got the soy sauce, which is really salty. You got the sesame oil. The oyster sauce is very salty. So that brown sugar really helps to pop a little sweetness in there and kind of take away all the notes of just salty, salty, salty. So if you're like me and you don't enjoy doing a lot of dishes, make sure if you're using the same instrument, you're going from dry ingredients to wet ingredients. So my tablespoon, I'm gonna do my packed brown sugar, and then I'm gonna do my soy sauce and my oyster sauce. So I can use the same spoon. If you do it the other way, you're gonna have to wash it and rinse it off and go back in. So it just saves you a little time, a little energy. So good little tip if you don't enjoy doing dishes. So we got our brown sugar in, we're gonna put our soy sauce, and then last we'll put in our oyster sauce. We'll give it a nice little whisk, and we will have our sauce ready for our lo mein. Now, these are almost done cooking, so they've cooked down quite a bit. So now all we're gonna do, we're gonna add some of our other veggies that are gonna take a little less time, which is gonna be our zucchini and our Thai chilies. And then we're just gonna give that a nice flip or a stir. Just to get everything coated. Make sure everything is having fun hanging out together. All right, we got our sauce made, so that is ready to go. And now we can head back to our chicken. Get that diced up, and get that in there with the rest of our veggies. So on the chicken breast, I'm gonna cut it in half, and then I'm gonna cut it into nice thin strips. Then as you can see with the chicken, when you are cooking the chicken, make sure you have no pink in the center here. You want it to be white all the way through. That's another good way to tell that the chicken is all the way done. If you see pink in the center, you're gonna wanna throw that back on for another minute or two, just till that pink is gone and we have good temperature in the center. And then as far as thin strips, this is about the size that we're going for. Again, nice and thin, something that you can get a few different pieces on with your veggies. That way you can get great flavor in every bite that you take. And that's the best part about cooking is, as you're going along, you can do some taste tests. Make sure everything tastes good. All right, so we got our chicken. We're gonna throw that in. Again, just to get everything working together. Make sure none of those pieces are sticking together. And then what I like to do is I like to take a little bit of my sauce. We're just gonna pour a little bit in with the veggies. Not all of it, maybe a quarter to a half. Then we're gonna coat the veggies and chicken in it, just so that they get some flavor before the noodles go in. Then we'll put the rest of our sauce on. And I know you're not here with me, but boy does that smell good. So now that this has almost all come together, the last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna throw in our bok choy and some green onion. Those are not gonna take very long at all. They will cook down very, very fast. Once they start to wilt, That's where we're gonna throw our noodles in, the rest of our sauce. We're gonna mix it all together, and then you would have successfully made some lo mein tonight. We got all of our veggies cooked. They're all cooked down, ready to go. So now it's time to get the noodles that we made earlier. What we're gonna do, we're just gonna fluff them up. And we're gonna start to add our lo mein all together. Now with the noodles, you can add them to the pan that you are making all your vegetables in, but let's say your pan isn't quite as big as this one, you can also add them to the pot that you, or add the veggies to the pot that you made the noodles in. So don't think that if you don't have a pan big enough that this isn't gonna work for you. All right, so we got the noodles in the pot. We're getting ready to add the rest of our sauce. We're gonna stir it all together. You're gonna have a really nice lo mein tonight. All right, now that we got everything mixed together, everything looks great. So let's see what the final product is. So here we have our lo mein. As you can see, we had a little green onion and a little sesame seed, but that's just more for the presentation of it. So feel free to use those. If you do not like either of those, you do not have to put them in. And just so you know that it is actually 5 servings. That was 1 bowl, and here's what we have left. So still have a nice little pot. We can throw that into the fridge and have a couple meals for later on. Hope this was helpful. Hope you all enjoyed watching this. Hopefully you were able to follow along, had some good lo mein tonight, and enjoy.